I still remember this girl, all of 24, I think half my age, who came and said she was trying to teach me social media and how to post and what you need to do. And she said, "No, ma'am, I don't think this is your cup of tea. You can't do it." And she went away. And I had to kind of swallow my ego, and I said, "What is it? I will figure it out." And of course, today some people call me as influencers on LinkedIn because I do a lot of writing, right? So I think that's the unlearning, relearning part which happened at that point in time. And it gave me the confidence that I could do it. So I think keeping the ego aside, unlearning, relearning, forgetting about others' age and experience levels. You can learn from everyone. My boss was 10, 15 years younger than me. It didn't matter.
Don't do different things because you have to do different things. There is no need to do different things. ये कोई मतलब, these are all overrated things, right? Make it different करना चाहिए. Do whatever you want to do, right? मतलब need not be different, right? With this idea of 0 to 1, कि we have to transform and be innovative and change the world. Very near, you can also make the world the way it is a little better, right? Without changing it dramatically. But जब करने की कोशिश करो ना, then don't look back. पहाड़ पे चढ़ना है ना, तो ऊपर तक चढ़ के आओ यार. मतलब don't come back halfway कि यार मतलब ऊपर जाके देखा कुछ भी नहीं है, पता नहीं क्यों आया. But it's still worth it.
Hello and welcome. I'm Suman Ghose, and with me is Atul, Nath. We are the hosts for this podcast. While our work journeys till now have been quite different, looking ahead, our paths could be more aligned due to similarities in what we seek. Purpose, passion, and happiness would be more important. As we spoke to more people about this, it became amply clear that this topic resonates with most of them. In this podcast series, we learn from people who have made a successful transition to their second innings. We have two guests with us in this episode. Neeraja Ganesh is a TEDx speaker, also a keynote speaker at prestigious conferences and forums such as Lean In, NASSCOM, and CII. She also conducts various training programs on leadership, with two of her signature programs being Networking for Results and How to Tell Your Story. Prior to this, she's had a successful career in the IT industry for 25 years. Welcome, Neeraja. Our next guest is Anurag. Anurag is a seasoned entrepreneur and a thought leader in the fields of cognitive and behavioral sciences. He has started several organizations, including Mensa, a live audio platform designed to enhance conversational learning, and Final Mile Consulting, which blends behavioral science with practical applications. Prior to that, he has worked with many illustrious companies such as De Beers, Airtel, and the like. Welcome, Anurag.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us this time this morning, Anurag and Neeraja. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation and learning a lot from both of you, and taking those interesting learnings to all our audience. I'm going to start by requesting each of you, and we'll start with you, Neeraja, to just tell us a little about yourself, your self story. We'd like to know a little more about you as a person, your upbringing, your early growing up years. Education and all is all very well and great, but really in those early years, what was the kind of space and the people around you when you were growing up, and your parents, your siblings? We all develop our habits in those early years, and maybe looking back at your stories, how you could potentially connect the dots with the early years of when you were growing up, and you had let's say you had a habit of reading, and that led to something and stuff like that. So would love to hear about Neeraja, the person, and what formed you over the years.
Let me rewind, like a flashback of 50 plus years. So I come from a South Indian family, a family which is extremely conservative. So I've had a very conservative upbringing. I'm an only child, no siblings. I grew up as a very meek, timid, shy girl, which people who didn't know me from that era don't believe to be true, but that's how I was for many, many years. I was in Indore, in Madhya Pradesh for the first 12 years of my life. I did my schooling there, but given that I was extremely meek, timid, shy, I used to keep to myself. I was one of those plain Janes, no great scores in school, no extracurricular. So yeah, there was Neeraja. Probably nobody ever knew that I existed, and I just was to myself. We didn't have any extended family also around us. So I largely spent time with myself, and I think I used to really observe a lot. So when you ask the question around, was there anything from your early years that may have helped you to become who you are today? I think the power of observation for sure, because I did that a lot over the years, and even today, um, while I do all of these talks, I have a large network. Um, I usually am the quieter person when there are groups. I prefer listening to people and observing, and that kind of builds a lot of perspectives. So I think that's definitely one of the things which has shaped me. And yes, then we came to Bangalore because my father got transferred. It was the same here. I was extremely quiet, but I think I bettered my grades after I kind of came to the high school and started getting better marks. And maybe there was some visibility in terms of this nerd who seems to, top, especially in maths and science, etc. Um, my parents and me didn't have any intention of a career. So I come from a family where they said, okay, the girl graduates and then we get her married. And I thought, okay, maybe that's the way it is. I'm okay for it. And I was not one of those rebellious ones. But I finished my graduation, and there was this search, it's an arranged marriage. So the search for the right boy was happening. And I just asked my father if I could do this course from NIIT. It's the early 90s, right? The era of IT booming. So I said, I would like to do this course. Behind in my head, I felt that if I could get a job before I got into marriage and make some money of my own, while there was no need for it, but there was some itch to be on my own and get some money, I thought, okay, this course will lead me to it, because everybody said, oh, IT folks make a lot of money. So that was the intention behind doing this 4-semester, course from NIIT. They sold it well, I must say, to us. They said, oh, you're too good, so you must do 4 semesters, not 1. And my father let me do it. I have to give it to them, despite the fact that they're very conservative. They had no, great ambition for me to be a career person. They let me do what I wanted to do. So I definitely have to say that they have been a great support in my life. And the only thing he told me was, if we find the boy for you and then the boy says, okay, no more studies, etc., you should be okay with it. And I said, okay, we'll deal with it when that happens. And that, I think, is a very big thing I would like to tell people. You can't really think of what's going to happen in the future and then decide what you want to do today. Let's kind of grab everything that you have with you today. And for me, it was very limited, right? Because I was very quiet. I really didn't go all out. So if you said, get into the course and, if somebody says no later, I said, that later we'll deal with it. Well, I completed my NIIT course. I got into a job, and 2 years after the job, the marriage happened. So, that's what I tell people. And I always remember this line from Sheryl Sandberg's Lean, where she says, don't leave before you leave. So a lot of girls, men think about, oh, what will happen when I get married and children and this and that, and may not pick up that opportunity, which today is okay for them, but at a later point in time could become, maybe some challenges may come. I said, forget it. We'll deal with it when that happens. So that's what kept me going, but I continued to be quiet. For the first 10 years of my career, I just did my work, which was programming. In those days, we would get nice designs, specs. So we had to code, we do a little bit of our own testing and then hand it over to, the other team. I was good at my job, so nobody really questioned me too much. I did a 9 to 6 and all was good till the team lead in my team was sent away to an on-site opportunity for 6 months. And in those days, leadership, and I'm like talking those days as if it's many, many years, actually it's many, many years ago, right? 30 plus years ago. I don't think leadership was attributed to any of the things that we speak about today in the, sessions that we take. It was about the most technically qualified person becomes the team lead. And I happened to be that in a team of 10 people who were almost equally qualified as I was. Just I was probably a little more. And that's when the realization set in that you can't continue to be quiet, because now you are accountable for your team. They'll come to you and they will say XYZ, and you need to kind of figure it out for them. You need to table what they have as concerns or requests with the management. We were going through a huge, transformation both within this team and the organization. So I had to really speak up with the management. I had to really fight it out with external stakeholders. And I felt responsible because of the role. And I started doing that. And before I end my stories, I definitely want to say this, that we were going through a CMMI transformation. So the quality standards that were being set up for this organization. And there was a nice process bank set up, and we all had to follow those processes. We were struggling in our team to follow these processes. And every week we had to do a self-compliance check as to are we 50% there, 70% there, and then we had to submit this and go into a meeting with the managing director to say how well are we complying. So that was my first week of this role, and I did the checklist. I got some pathetic scores. And Neeraja is a very, very sincere, honest person. So if it's a no, it's a no, right? I'm not going to fudge anything. And we had only yes and no in that Excel. There was no not applicable and things like that. So everything that was slightly also not a yes became a no. So I was pathetic in the score, and I went in there. And I was actually managing a production support team. So I looked around, and there was this other person who was also heading a production support team. And I said, okay, what are your compliances like? And he said, he'd got some good scores. So I said, how are you able to do it? Like, I'm struggling. It's like, for example, there was a question which said, do you have coding standards? I said, in production support team, you don't code. We were level 1, right? So we take calls, we offer workarounds, and then we may do a little bit of, figuring out what is the issue. And if it needs a fix, we send it to another team to fix. We don't code. So you don't have standards. He said, oh, Neeraja, I just put a coding standard document in the repository and I made it yes. Okay, I said, I'm never going to comply like this. So the first time I opened up my mouth in that meeting with really senior leaders, and I told the managing director, we are struggling. It would be good if someone from the quality assurance team can come and sit with us and really help us follow these processes. And everybody around thought this girl has gone nuts. One who doesn't speak is really challenging in some ways, the managing director. Of course, she doesn't know her job. So maybe she'll be thrown out of the job, if not out of the company tomorrow. That was kind of a sense I was getting. But I said this and I came back. And the next day, the MD announced a concept of quality representatives. Somebody from the quality assurance team who will sit with every team and understand the work that they do and help them follow the processes. And when that QR, quality representative, came and sat with us, he said, our processes are defined for development projects, not for production support. We really have to rework on processes for production support teams. And they went back to the drawing board. And it was such a help for us and the entire organization. And I felt, I probably helped the organization from getting embarrassed with an external audit at some point in time. And that is when I realized it's important to speak. And Neeraja hasn't stopped speaking since then. But let me stop now.
That's amazing. I mean, that obviously is some very, very interesting insights. And one of the things you hit upon straight away, that no point thinking about what are the dots that are going to happen in the future, 2, 5, 10 years ahead, because as Steve Jobs said in that very famous talk of his, that, dots are something you can join, connect later. You look back and you connect the dots, and you've connected the dots really, really well. By the way, I did that same NIIT course, 4 semesters. They really did sell it well. And I didn't become a coder. That's the only difference. But it was actually in those times, and I did it in the early 90s. It was something that was really, it was eye-opening as what all computers can do. Anyway, that's a different story for a different day. So it's very interesting that, you're connecting the dots like that. And I find that very fascinating in terms of your journey. And we will talk about the work you're doing now and the decisions you made and so on. we'll go over to Anurag and listen to his story for a few minutes, and just would love to know more about him.
Sure, Neeraja, thanks for sharing your story. Look, I've spoken to you before, but this is a good platform to learn stories rather than just listen to some insights, right? So thanks, Suman. Thanks, Atul, for the invitation. What can I say about myself? So I'm like an everything, everywhere, all at once kind of a guy, right? Matlab, I leave nothing behind. Absolutely nothing. From childhood, there's nothing I would leave behind. कुछ भी मेरे को मिलेगा तो मैं करूँगा, right? That was always my attitude. Even today is the same thing, right? I mean, you can draw me into anything, anytime. And so I'm that ideal Jack, right? If there's a quintessential Jack in the world, then I'm that Jack, right? I'm into everything, right? Even though, I never had a childhood to begin with. I had a very, very short childhood, right? Probably 6 years, maybe 7 years of childhood, right? Because once my father passed away, everything changed for him, right? I was the adult in the house. At the age of 8, 9, I was trying to be the adult of the house. We were left in quite a lurch, right, at that point in time. And so never really saw a childhood. Because went to hostel at the age of, when I was in the 5th standard, I was in a hostel, right? Because my mother had to go, and do her B.Ed, because that was the only way that she could have found a permanent job in her government school, right? And so she went for her education. So we all kids were in different parts of the country, 3 of us, living in different situations, right? Like my sister went and lived with her nanny, and my brother went to one hostel, I went to another hostel. So बचपन से ही वो इंडिपेंडेंस आ गया था कि मतलब मुझे किसी की जरूरत नहीं है, एंड इट्स नॉट अ गुड फीलिंग टू हैव, बट आई हैड दैट सेंस कि मतलब खुद कर लेंगे जो भी करना है, डोंट नीड any support. So all these courses I wish I could have done, but I've never spent a single peso on any coaching ever in my life because there was none. I wish there was, right? Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's been my life. I was lucky also because I got a science scholarship when I was in the 9th standard, national science scholarship. So 150 रुपए मिलते रहते थे महीने के. And the best part of that scholarship was that there was unlimited supply of books, right? You could just write to them and say, I want these 5 books, they'll send it. This was a Jagdish Bose National Science Talent Search kind of a program. I grew up in Bengal, तो वहाँ पे बुक फेयर होता था जहाँ पे रशियन बुक्स बहुत सारी आती थी. I don't know if you know. And this was really cheap. I don't think the idea was to sell. The idea was for people to read about Leninism, Marxism, communism, socialism. So बहुत बुक्स पढ़ते थे, बहुत खेलते थे भी थे. कभी कोई गाइडेंस नहीं मिला. My mother never had a time for us to be guided. So I don't remember ever anybody telling me कि पढ़ लो. मतलब कभी भी नहीं. या जग जाओ, या खा लो, या कुछ कर लो, राइट? मतलब जो करना है खुद करो, राइट? मतलब खाना है खाओ, नहीं खाना है मत खाओ, पढ़ना है पढ़ो, नहीं पढ़ना है मत पढ़ो, एग्जाम देना है करो. And I also grew up in a Marwari community, right, in Bengal. So in Siliguri, there used to be a Bengali community and there used to be a Marwari community. And I used to be friends with the Marwari community. And Marwaris were not because of my situation, but in general like that, right? Matlab, self-dependent. It's not like you are being told to do certain things, Very early in their age, they would go and sit in their shops and also. I also probably cultivated some of those, things within me, right? So that's how it's been. My interest in school was just to get to a job. So I had no path in my mind. There's nothing called I want to study this or that. I mean, the strangest story is I was standing in Hindu college trying to get an admission into electronics. I get into a little bit of a tutu meme with IG. Indrajit Gupta was the HOD of electronics department. We were on the first floor, and Dr. Sarabhai was the head of department for chemistry, and he was passing by, and he said, "क्या हो बेटा?" I said, "मैं सिलीगुड़ी से आया हूँ और मेरे को एडमिशन दे दे, कह रहे हैं कि तुम तो भाग जाओगे." So there used to be this concept in Delhi University कि अगर students के marks works अच्छे हैं, then they will go away. They will never stay. They will kind of next year they'll get into some engineering college, this that, and the classes will become empty. So he said, "I won't give you admission because I know you will go away." And I was trying to tell him कि I don't have that option. I have to finish my college in 3 years, 2 years MBA, get a job. If I had to do engineering, I would have done engineering. But he didn't believe it. And so we got into a little bit of a scuffle. Sarabhai was passing. He said, "क्या हुआ बेटा?" I said, "अरे मतलब इतनी दूर से आया हूँ, and this person is saying, मैं भाग जाऊंगा, कहाँ भाग के जाऊंगा, right? और admission is there. They said, marks sheet दिखाओ. अरे, you got very good marks in chemistry also. I said, हाँ, chemistry में admission चाहिए. चलो. So that's how I moved from electronics to chemistry like in 1 minute, right? Because I was very clear that nothing matters to me. I just need to get to a job, right? And early on, I was very clear that I need to live 2 or 3 lives. The first life is this life of a job, where I get to a job, I get some money, settle my family up and everything else, and then probably do something later on. But that path was never in doubt in my mind. Right? मतलब कोई भी जानता है तो जानता है कि बचपन से सिर्फ जॉब ही मेरा objective था, and doesn't matter what job. In fact, even in campus, first job I got, I took it. Like, I'm not going to take any chance. Like, so, पहला job Milward Brown MRB से आया, I took the job. He said, लोगे, first लेंगे, sign, finish. So that day, one of my life finished, which is to find a job, right? And then I spent 6-7 years working for Wipro and De Beers and Bharti for some time. And then from then on, 2006 on, it's been my second life, which is the life I wanted to lead, which is, chasing my own intellectual curiosities, doing what I want to do, and so on and so forth. But even in this midst, matlab, this idea that I can do anything and everything is part of my story. मतलब मैं कुछ भी करता हूँ, कुछ भी. Like I would go to a sea, don't know how to swim, jump into the sea, right, then struggle. एक बार तो क्या हुआ कि I was in Goa, and that time I did not know swimming. I was with the De Beers team, and I jumped in the sea because somebody called from the sea कि अरे तुम भी आ जाओ, तो मैं jump कर गया. And then I started struggling a little bit. Then I stabilized myself because this guy held my hand and gave me a life jacket and whatever else. मेरे को देख के 2 और jump कर गए. Then they were in trouble, right? Because I didn't know what to do. So, but I do everything, right? I just do anything that comes my way. Even now, I do AI and behavioral science and design and this, that. If you look at my CV, it looks like the Joker doesn't know where he wants to go. But I'm quite happy that way. This is how I've been. This is what I love to be. Every day is a new day for me, and I'm really enjoying myself now because I have no obligations, no liabilities. I can do whatever I want to do as a kid. Does that make sense? I mean, it's not a soft story, but it's the kind of story that I have.
No, it's a lovely story, Anurag. I learned so much about you. By the way, I also grew up in Bengal. So I got reminded of my childhood when you talked of the Russian books. So right next to our house used to be this Gorky Southern. And I remember I used to go there. And I was really small that time. I used to walk up till there, and there were tons of books and really nice books. I still remember those books on different topics.
So going back for a minute, Anurag, if I was to try and how should I put this? Put some logic to your story. While your story, the way you're telling it, you had early in your life decided your immediate objective was to get a job, and then once you had a job, you had some sense that you would want to do something beyond just having a job. I think what you've done without really realizing it, and looking back, we can talk about this, is that you kept your funnel of options and ideas really wide open. So a lot of things were falling into trying this, you're trying that, you're doing everything, while you're very clear what needs to come out of the bottom of the funnel, which was a job. So, the top of the funnel is nice and wide, and, it's coming down, and you're kind of doing a lot of stuff and evaluating things and then getting to your objective the way you did. And what I really find interesting also is that it wasn't just okay, job ho gaya, now step by step, better. That straight track that a lot of us have in our careers. And so I think that's amazing. How long did it kind of take you to decide? And I'm just pausing while asking you that question because, I'm sure you did it through a process of lots of options, etc., to decide what you wanted to do on your own. How long did it take you to do that, to decide to do that? How did you kind of go through that process?
So, after I started working, right, matlab, 4 companies in 7 years, you can imagine what work I did, right? Really made no contribution, right, so to say, which is any significant thing. But the growth was very, very good, right? I somehow always had very great respect for anybody older than me. Right? Even if you are 1 year older than me, you can't ever see me have even an iota of, tu meme with them. I'm always very, very respectful for people, right? And in in offices, it worked very, very well because my relationship with my seniors was fantastic, right? So they used to give me more opportunities. Matlab, in Bharti, 2, 3 years, I was flying literally, right? So got good chances, but 6 7 साल में bore हो गए थे. It was beginning. By then, my sister was well settled. My brother was well settled. My mom knew that she has an option now to stop working. Not that I wanted her to stop working, but she knew that she can, if she wants to stop working, move from Siliguri to wherever we are. So that sense of stability came. I got married. Shweta is, as good as it gets. I mean, that's how lucky I've been in some ways, right? But she was always working herself. She's very independent herself. So there's a sense of stability. कि मतलब वो phase खत्म हो गया that, So when you're starting from a very low base, everything looks better from there, right? So that little bit was a lot for us, right? कि मतलब अब we can have a house, we can stay, right? We can do what we want to do. So the first time we did something, which is 2007, when we opened Final Mile, there was no plan. It was just a plunge, right? Because the science is so amazing that once you're into it, there's no out of it. Like the whole behavioral science, cognitive science space was such key. The moment we got introduced to it, it was like you can't leave it behind. You have to do something about it, right? So I don't think we thought much about it. We just did. Like I said, right? I do things and then we'll figure out ki iska kya hoga, right? So at the point when I was doing behavioral sciences, there was no big vision, and it sounds wrong, even though I run a startup cliff series on Menza with 200 episodes, and many times I lie ki vision hona chahiye ye wo. But like I say, what we say, what we mean, and what we do can be very different, right? So I'm not a very vision person ki yaar, matlab, isko yahan leke jana. If you find something interesting, do it, right? I mean, so we did it, and Menza, on the other hand, is a leap. It's not a plunge, right? Menza is you wanted to stand on that board and take a leap because you wanted to do something which is fundamentally different, and you had an idea where you want to go. But Final Mile was never like that. It was just like, "Arey, kitni mast cheez hai. If anybody can do it, we should be doing it." And so there's a little bit of random. So it might seem like बहुत vision है, कोई vision नहीं है, right? मतलब look at my glasses, right? मतलब there's no vision, right? There's just action, 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 action. Starts forming, devote more time, doesn't start forming, find something else, or modify it, pivot it. But channels ban jate hain. I don't think we have to worry too much about putting things into a channel. Channels do form. It's a natural state of things for channels to form. I hope I'm making some sense, Atul. But
You are, and always say about entrepreneurs that instead of trying to aim and shoot, you should be shoot and aim, and that always works because the only way to figure out whether something is working in an entrepreneurial career is to just keep taking your shots. And you'll figure out whether you're hitting or not, and then you kind of fine tune your aim and take the next shot and so on and so forth. Obviously, all of these things are tempered with availability of resources, and all of that is important, time and resources and all that. But still, I think that the mindset needs to be shoot and aim rather than aim and shoot. Neeraja, if I could ask you a similar kind of question, that how long did it kind of take you to decide, considering your upbringing of being conservative, as the word you yourself used, to take that plunge into doing something on your own and changing tracks in life?
Okay, so it's taken 25 years. So my bio says it, right? 25 years of technology, because there was no intention of changing. So, as I said, there was no career goal in mind. I said, okay, I got 2 years to work before I got married. My husband said, okay, you want to continue working, you work. I always kept thinking that maybe when the child comes to 5th standard, child comes to 10th standard, I may have to leave, right? So while I talk a lot about being intentional with our careers today, but from the stories that we are hearing, even Anurag's and the way I'm narrating mine, I don't think there was that intentionality that I want to go for this. Because of the limited resources, I think we just scrambled and picked up everything. But the thing was that we worked on it. Whatever came our way, we really held it close and continued. So I did non-stop 25 years of technology. I never thought that I want to do anything different because life was sorted. Career was going well. I didn't really aim for the top-notch designations roles because I knew I had to balance with my family. I have a daughter. I live in a joint family with my in-laws, my parents in the same city, and I'm the only child. My husband is the only son. So I knew all of this has to be balanced. So I kind of took decisions which would enable me to grow in my career, but also look after family. And there's not much that you can do beyond work, home. Over the weekends, you're just trying to figure out a few things. I took the plunge after 25 years, again, not intentionally, because I took some time off to care for the family that supported me through my 25 years. So it started with my mother, who underwent a surgery. My father was no more by then, and she was asked to take bed rest for 6 weeks. And you know how it is. Mothers will not want to come and stay in the daughter's household, especially because I live with my in-laws. I said, no, you come. I will take off and I will be with you. So you don't have to feel obligated to, my mother-in-law is taking care of you or somebody else. So I took 6 weeks off. And I was in a role, tech company, senior. So, pre-COVID, people didn't think you can do anything remotely. So every other week, they expected me to be in one of the cities where my team is. And this is a services company, so you have teams across the country. So the expectation was that I travel too much. So I spoke to my organizer. I said, I don't want to travel anymore, at least for some time, because I want to be with family. So find me a role which doesn't have travel. And I took the 6 weeks off and I had come out of that project. 6 weeks, my mother went back to her house, but my husband fell very, very ill. So I continued my leave also because they had not found another role for me to kind of care for him. So the 6 weeks went to 3 months because after my husband recovered, my father-in-law fell very ill and then my father-in-law passed away. Okay. But the thing that I did in those 3 months, except for those 2 weeks when the rituals were happening after my father-in-law passed away, was every day I stepped out for 2 hours. So while I was caring for people, it's not the 24/7 you have to be with them. So in the afternoon, when my mother rested or husband rested, 2 hours every day I would step out. I would do 2 things. One, every alternate day I was volunteering somewhere, which could be Jobs for Her, which could be a startup, to really figure out what do these organizations do? Because in a corporate, you really know how things work. And somewhere at the back of my mind, I felt that if such a role doesn't come by, no travel, then I will quit. So that I had very clearly decided. And I didn't want to find another corporate job because it was going to be the same. At some point in time, they'll say, no, go back, you have to travel, etc. So I needed to figure out if I want to start something of my own or go work somewhere else, which is not like a corporate, what does it mean? So I was doing this volunteering. And I was also meeting a lot of people. So I had built a good network by then. From where had I built? Wherever I met people at conferences, on LinkedIn, I would find interesting people. So say Anurag is doing something very interesting, I'll connect with him. So I'd stayed connected with a lot of, very interesting people. I started pinging them and I went and met them. And I told them, is there something I can do along with you? And everybody said, we'll be very happy to have you on board. So that gave me confidence that, okay, there is something that I can do. And there's enough to do. Because when you're volunteering, I realized there's enough work that I can do. The money part of it, we'll have to figure out. How do you make money out of it? But if you keep that aside, I knew I will not die of boredom, if I left without another job. So after 3 months, when the company said, now you come back, enough leave, you can't get more leave, and there is no other role without travel, you have to pick up what we offer. I quit without a job. So that's what happened. And then I went to a startup. I was consulting there. And then the JobsForHer Foundation happened. The founder of JobsForHer, now they call it Herky, Neha Bagaria, knew that I had quit. and she was starting a not-for-profit. So she asked me to come and head that. And I said, wow, this is a passion area, right, for me to kind of help women. And if I'm going to head a foundation which works to that cause, why not? And that's how, the plunge, leap, whatever you may call, happened. And huge transformation also happened second time. First time was when I told you I became a team lead and I spoke up. This time it was the realization that you have to unlearn everything, because it's not the same like a corporate setup when you are running not-for-profits. You're the only person running the entire show, which means even going and printing stationery is your job. You have to learn from all these youngsters. I still remember this girl, all of 24, I think half my age, who came and said she was trying to teach me social media and how to post and what you need to do. And she said, no, ma'am, I don't think this is your cup of tea. You can't do it. And she went away. And I had to kind of swallow my ego, and I said, what is it? I will figure it out. And of course, today, some people call me as influencers on LinkedIn because I do a lot of writing, right? So I think that's the unlearning, relearning part which happened at that point in time. And it gave me the confidence that I could do it. So I think keeping the ego aside, unlearning, relearning, forgetting about others' age and experience levels. You can learn from everyone. My boss was 10, 15 years younger than me. It didn't matter. But I think from my day one till now, it's about taking action. Like Anurag was saying, take action. You have something you're coming your way. Can we just go ahead?
It's the same thing. That's exactly what was going on in my head.
Yeah.
That, Neeraja, exactly when you were talking about the fact that 3 months you just decided to go 2 hours out there and take action, right? And that is so, it's so inspiring for me to hear, because it's just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, that's how it happened. Yes.
I think I remember meeting Neeraja in one of those sessions only, and she was talking about networking.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting data points was people who are in jobs don't network, right? And whereas, as an entrepreneur, I think it's very important. The fact that you're going out 2 hours is basically getting out of your comfort zone, right? And I think that's so critical. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. So I wanted to talk a bit about what I call the hot state, which is really taking the plunge, right? We can rationalize it saying that, okay, I did this and I want to do this. But when you actually have to take the jump, there are a lot of emotions which kick in, right? So let's talk a bit about that. Let me turn to you, Anurag. I find it quite fascinating that when you were growing up, your single-minded ambition was to get a job. But once you had a job, within a few years, you were kind of certain that you wanted to get out and do something on your own, right? So when you actually took the plunge of, moving away from a paycheck, because that's what you were looking at earlier, what was it like? What was the experience? What were the emotions running through you?
That's not true. I mean, even if I said something, so what I say, what I mean, what I do are again, many, many different things, right? But there was no plan to get out. The instinct has always been everything, everywhere, all at once, right? So when I saw this behavioral science thing, it happened to be that I read this book, Influence, on an airport, and then it happens to be that Biju, Ram, Anand, my partners in Final Mile, when they were talking about this book, Influence and Nath and all, and I'm like, कुछ करना चाहिए यार इसके बारे में, मतलब it cannot be so fundamentally different and we do nothing about it. We should do something about it, right? So it wasn't again a plan to get out of job. It was more about it's like एक पहाड़ देखा तो चढ़ना है, एक सी देखा तो कूदना है, right? That idea that you see something interesting in front of you, तो मतलब let's go ऊपर देख के आते हैं क्या है.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. That's just amazing. What an attitude. It's beautiful. Please carry on.
And right through.
And I think anybody who had seen behavioral science would have said कि कुछ करना है. The problem is that some do, some don't, right? But I can't imagine people looking at it and saying कि इसको छोड़ दो, जाने दो. It's not of interest, right? Most people would say इसका कुछ करना चाहिए, right? And that's probably the reason why so many people are doing so much about behavioral sciences today. That we did it in 2006-07 is probably a lucky कि मतलब हमारे हाथ में बुक आ गई थी, बाकियों को नहीं लगा कि इन्फ्लुएंस और नाच एंड थिंकिंग, फास्ट थिंकिंग तो हमें कुछ है, हमारे वो लैब पे तीनों बुक आके गिर गई एक साथ. And Anand and Ram are like friends from Wipro. It's interesting that I only spent 1 year in Wipro. Anand spent 1 year, 3-4 months, and Ram probably 1 year, 4-5 months, right? We all came from different backgrounds, no connections, nothing. But within a year, we were like doppelgangers, right? We're like exactly like each other. So Ram, Anand, and we are like exactly. If Anand was sitting in this meeting, he would talk 99% like me, right? Well, we are like as similar gets, right? When we met in Bombay, when you take a plunge, you need to trust, right? And that plunge was trust. With Anand and Ram around, there was no fear. There's so much trust between the three of us that अगर मजाक में भी हम बोल दें ना कि मतलब हमें ये करना है, there is no second thoughts about it. It's like हो गया. It's even in Menza when we came in, Anand was not part of my initial plan. But I knew कि मैं जिस दिन भी आनंद को बोलूंगा कि आनंद आजा, let's do it together. There is no doubt कि वो होगा. That's what happened after a year. I told Anand कि तू छोड़े जो भी कर रहा है, कम मिलेगा. The next day he was on. Right? So we had so much of trust between the three of us that there was no fear in jumping, and so it happened like I said, it wasn't a plan. The plan was always that there's a time till I work to get some stability, and then I do whatever I want to do. And today also I do just what I want to do. मेरे को जिस दिन दौड़ने का मन करे दौड़ता हूँ, खेलने का मन करता है खेलता हूँ. Some people are saying I'm on intermittent fasting, but कल मेरा मन करेगा खाने का तो मैं खाऊंगा. मतलब there is no gap. जो मन करता है वो करता हूँ. Anything that comes to my mind I do, and that was happened to me 2006 में behavioral science करने का मन किया तो 12-13 साल तक वही करते रह गए. But no grand plans around that time Atul.
Interesting. Yeah. The fact that fear was reduced because you had a close set of, people who we could trust and we could trust each other. I think that was very insightful.
It's a rationalization. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened at that time in our brains.
Hmm.
So we were just too instinctive and not, but right now I can rationalize anything with Anand and Ram around. Why don't you have to think twice about anything?
Hmm.
Right?
Okay.
Why?
Great. Ninja, how about for you? I know for you, you said you already worked for 25 years, so maybe it was not, but still, what was your experience like of actually, when you got that letter saying you have to take a call, you have to come back and do this, you had to take that call saying, okay, I'm not going to do this. What was that experience like?
So, for me, as a person, I'm not very fearful of things. I don't fret about things. I believe I have a very high level of acceptance of whatever happens. Okay. And I do what I believe in. Hence I was okay with whatever. Like my TEDx talk is also said, be yourself. I just kind of am myself and I believe in something and I go all out without, it's not in a negative way that, I care a damn. It's not that. But if I think that this is what I want to do and this will figure its way out for me while the rest of the world is doing something different, it will kind of figure out. That belief is there, a very high level of belief in myself. So I knew I was doing the right thing because my priorities were sorted. At that point in time, priority was being with family. So it really didn't matter about it. So there was no fear. For sure, there was no fear. And when my brand started evolving with Jobs for Her, I have to give it to that platform because I was heading the JobsForHer Foundation. So I got invited to many places to talk, etc. So the brand started evolving. People started calling me and saying, okay, how did I go about doing it? And that they didn't have the guts to actually, they wanted to do something similar or, take that plunge, get out of the corporate, do a few things that were they were passionate about. So I would give them my story about a few things. It's always about high on networking, collaborating in terms of, going after what you really want to do, a few things that I would tell them. But nobody really had the guts to do it, is what I would say. And it's 7 years now. 2017 is when I quit. We are in 2024. They are where they were. They continue to be there. And I think I've kind of grown over these years, right? So I think it is about the fact that I have very strong belief in what I want to do, and I go all out and do it, and eventually figure itself out. Something similar to Anurag.
But Neeraja, I'm sorry, I'm going to just go a little deeper into that, try and scrape the surface on that. That where does that belief come from? Where does that is it and belief comes from as I see it in people around me and myself. Belief comes from different things for different people, right? For some people, lot of thought and analysis leads to belief, right? You keep considering all the options, etc. For some people, for whom the financial stability or the financial security is very important, creating a very strong financial base is what gives confidence and belief. Creating spreadsheets which give you a sense of how much money you have for how long, for all of those lovely spreadsheets a lot of us some of us create, that gives belief. Or belief comes from just the way you grew up and something. So where does yours come from? I don't expect this to be a one size fits all, but where does yours come from?
See, if I reflect, I told you I was always on my own, right? I grew up, I didn't have too many friends. I've done everything on my own, really, very frankly. So whether it was figuring out what college. So if you heard my TEDx talk where I said I chose not to do engineering, which was very different to the rest of the crowd. I went and I wanted to look at only maths, and then I figured out where are colleges where there is maths and statistics, and I picked up a college which was unknown of. The combination was unknown of in that year. Now it's like a hot selling cake. Nobody was there to guide me. Nobody took me anywhere. My parents didn't. Okay, I did it on my own. So every part of my life, I have been on my own. And I think that's where that belief comes. I have never had an insecurity of anything. I say, okay, let me go. I will figure it out. Definitely, I think taking a plunge of this sort that, okay, I get out of corporate and, I don't know where the money is going to come from. I told you, right? There's enough to do, but I don't know where the money is going to come from. We'll figure it out. Definitely 25 years of that corporate experience has built a kitty. I'm not denying that. Would I have done it 10 years prior? I may still have. Because financially, from month one, my mother ensured that I was, investing and saving. That definitely was there. I remember the first stipend I got was 1,500 rupees, 1992. I worked only for 15 days because I joined on December 14th. I got some 800 rupees and children. And my father had said, 50% of a first salary will be donated in a temple. So, uske baad 400 rupees. Right? But from the next month, my mother ensured I was saving 500 rupees. So that has always been there. So I think definitely having financial stability helps. But beyond that, it is the belief. I think it is because I have been on my own always, figured things out, and things have worked out. And if it didn't work out, I won't regret it. I will just find what needs to be done next to sort this out so that, I can go after, where I wanted to go. So that's where I think the belief comes from, if that helps.
Yeah, that's definitely a...
Yeah, but I think, what you were saying earlier, you had that situation because of which you had to take that call. Since we're talking of taking the plunge, which is actually taking that plunge is always a challenge because emotions get involved. You need a push. Now that push could be internal, it could be external also. So Neeraja, one of the things you mentioned was that you had to take a call. There was a situation you had to take a call because of which you decided to move away from the corporate world. So it's a bit of an external push as well. You also mentioned some of the people who have reached out to you have not taken that plunge, right? Probably because they don't have that external push. So how important is it? Or let me put it differently. If you didn't have an external push, do you see yourself continuing in a job, or do you think you would still go ahead and do something different?
So at that point in time, you were right to say that that push was because of my priorities. And that is what I would tell for anyone. do you even know what your priorities are? For many people, while it sounds simple, of course I know my priorities, but if you were to ask them to list down, what's your priority number one? What's your priority number two? People will be all over the place. They will say two things. These both are my priorities. They will not know what is one, what is two. But all my life, I've known my priorities very, very exactly to say, this is my top priority, this is my second. And things may have reversed at some stage of my life. However, I knew that very, very clearly. And that helps to take those decisions. Okay. Now, in the others who may not have taken, it is not because they don't have good financial backing. Like all of us, technology people, 25 years would have, made enough money. We don't know how much money is needed. But to kind of, if you don't know your priority, then you'll say, okay, I think I need to earn some more. So maybe after 5 years, I can do this. Right. And I tell people that after 5 will never come. The time is now and today. If you want to do something, do it today. And it could be just a very small thing. The other thing is people will, somebody will beat me up for this. They will draw this business model canvas with their huge business plans. And they'll say, okay, I need this kind of investment. I need to see this kind of scale. And I say, cut it out. For me...
Perfect old state. Yeah, absolutely.
For me, if I could impact one woman, because that was what driving force for me. I really wanted to help women, right? If I could impact one woman who was on a career break to restart her career, I was happy. And I will narrate the story. I mean, I did a lot of things. Like Anurag, I've done many things. I mentor, I coach, I do leadership sessions, I will write, I will go speak and give talks. I do many, many things, right? And there was this day when I was planning to shop, last day of the year in 2018. And I got off the car. And the shop was on the opposite side. So I was crossing that road. And there was one two-wheeler which passed by. Okay, and then the two-wheeler turned back. I was wondering why. Maybe the person has come on a wrong route. But somewhere I felt, maybe the person is wanting to meet me. So I crossed very slowly and stood on the opposite side. The two-wheeler came and stood by my side. The person had a helmet on. The person removed it. It was a woman. And she said, "Aren't you Neeraja Ganesh?" I said, "Yeah." I don't know. I didn't know her from anywhere, right? She said, "I thought you were Neeraja Ganesh as you got off the car. And there was no way I was not going to come and thank you for all the work that you do for women like us." Right? And that's what I say. I mean, I didn't have grand plans. I said, if I can help one woman, go for it. And without my knowledge, it's kind of impacted people, somebody walking on the road. So it's good at some point in time to develop all those models, frameworks, numbers. However, if you feel the itch, just get going. Is my, simple, humble offering here.
I think Jo man kar raha hai karo is right up Anurag's alley. So Anurag, any
पहाड़ है तो चढ़ जाओ.
चढ़ जाओ.
That's my one line from this particular session. पहाड़ है तो चढ़ जाओ.
It's slightly foolish, right? Matlab, it's not that this attitude has not landed me in trouble, right? That's not true. Matlab, I could have destroyed myself in college, for instance, where I used to stay in a hostel, Delhi University, and with so much of an urge bias, ki matlab, man kiya to karo, right? Matlab, that jumping into the sea was not the right thing. Right? I don't want to see my daughter doing that, right? But like I said, I think commission errors are better than omission errors, right? So it's better to do something and then realize that you did something wrong than not do something and realize that you did something wrong, right? So again, I'm not judging anybody. Everybody has the right to figure out their mind and do what they want to do, right? If they feel more comfortable with omission, please be. I feel more comfortable with commission errors. I'm okay, right? And I always had this enough sense of disrespect for myself. मतलब अभी भी मैं मेंजा में सबको ये बोलता हूँ, थोड़ा सा disrespect cultivate करो, right? Most of our problems are because we do too much of self-respect, right? This failure is the idea that I am okay to live with disrespect. समझ से कितना बेवकूफ इंसान था, अच्छा खासा जॉब कर रहा था, छोड़ के ये स्टार्टअप किया, देखो क्या वाट लगा, right? At that point you can't say no, I did everything right. No, I have that disrespect. That's okay. I was foolish. And what is so important about self-respect that you have to go through depression, stress, anxiety, and as much as you want to cultivate respect, cultivate little disrespect. कि अब कल बोले कि तुमने गलत किया, बोला हाँ किया. But you have been stupid here. हाँ, I was stupid. I was dishonest. Right? I can't even say I'm an honest person. the amount of dishonesties I've done is incredible, right? So, but I have enough disrespect to live with it. कि I don't get bothered about it. कि यार ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए था, वैसा नहीं करना चाहिए था. सब जो किया ठीक है, doesn't matter. Right? And I think most of my belief comes from the fact that I've always surrounded myself with people better than me. When you come to Mensa, all my founders are way better than me, and that just reduces pressure on me. क्योंकि सारे के सारे इतने अच्छे हैं, right? My school friends, right? Pankaj, Vikas, right? Neeraj, they're phenomenal better than me. Look at their lives, what they are doing with it, right? So that also gives Anand and Ram, right? If you hear Anand speak and Ram speak and the way their integrity is, the way their knowledge is so much better than mine कि मुझे confidence की कमी नहीं होती क्योंकि you're harnessed on something that is really strong, right? So that has also helped, I think, in many ways. It allows you to take leaps and all. But I think थोड़ा disrespect होना चाहिए. Too much of respect is problemsome in today's world. I think it's a source of depression is too much of self-respect.
I think what I'm taking away is also a lot of humility. I mean, the way you sound so humble. Yeah. And I'm just thinking maybe that's absolutely. And maybe that's a prerequisite as well, if you want to do different things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Atul, I know we've talked quite a bit about the finance thing. Do you want to delve a little deeper, or maybe we'll get into the passion thing?
On the financial thing, this is the reason we're talking about this, Neeraja and Anurag, is that with a lot of people that we've spoken with, we've found that there is either a very conscious, and I was talking about the spreadsheets earlier, there is a very conscious effort and thought process to figure out the financial part of things before taking some form of the hot state jump or plunge as we were talking about. Or if nothing, or in some cases, people are from fairly good background, and as a result, the downside risk is not very high, so they don't need to think about that, and that's fine. Each to his own. So just wanted to understand from each of you how much you thought about the financial part of it before you finally jumped off the cliff, so to speak.
So I'll very quickly say that for me, I had stability. I have to be very honest with that. 25 years and very, very sound investments, etc. So that stability was there. But letting go of that paycheck that is coming every month will pinch you. There will be this thought of, oh, can I still go and shop in the mall? Those thoughts will come. But the other thing that helped me was, this is how I looked at it. If I wanted to start up, any time when I want to start off on my own, I have to invest, okay? And then it has to kind of break even, revenues, profits, maybe 2 years. It's going to take me. I will keep putting money into that. And then when the profits start coming back, also, I don't know whether I want to take it off for myself or put it back into the business, right? So maybe 2 years of not really getting anything if I started on my own. Versus I went and started consulting at the startup for really peanuts, to be very honest. And they also told me, we can't pay a Neeraja Ganesh. So I said, you don't pay a Neeraja Ganesh. You pay anybody else that you would have taken for this role. Okay. And they paid me something and I took it because this is how I evaluated. I felt I was getting money to learn how to, start up on my own, versus putting my own money and then, figuring it out. So that is how I trade off. And my only thing for everyone would be that while you are waiting, and this is, I know we're talking entrepreneurship and things like that, but there will be people who are in jobs, wanting to get into jobs also who will listen to this. A lot of women who've taken a career break, and they're waiting for that right opportunity. I tell them, even volunteering is not a bad thing. I did it. I volunteered those 3 months, right? Because while you're waiting for that job, for the right amount of salary to come, you lose a year. But if you are volunteering, anyways, you're not earning anything. But the amount of experience that you gather there, and then you can actually figure out something different to do than what you knew, a year ago. Really, really helps. So my take to it is this, that yes, I am conservative. I may not take the risks that Anurag took of jumping into the sea, but go for it, with some rationale. Don't hold yourselves back, because there'll never be a right moment. That's all I will say.
Nice. So there'll never be a right moment, basically. The moment is now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. Is the message.
Anurag, anything on the financial planning from your end? Otherwise, we can just kind of move on to.
So 2006-7 में, by the time I had done 5-6 years of work, I think all the obligations were over. Stability was not the idea. The obligation to get my mom this sense that she can quit her job and come back and live with us. She was living alone in Siliguri by that time, right? My sister was stable. My niece was getting into an MBA and all of those things, right? So stability तो कभी थी नहीं, right? 2006-7 में, मतलब the other time when Anand and I was sitting in New York with $100 in our pocket, I'm not kidding, right? And that day we did not know कि रात को रुकेंगे कहाँ पे, right? Because there's so much less, so little money that we just knew our ticket back. It wasn't a worry. When we started Menza, I had much more financial stability because we had sold Final Mile to Fractal, right? So there was some money sitting. But even today, I don't think I'll bat an eyelid if I have to destroy all that wealth in 1 month. Matlab, just demolish it, because I know I can earn it back. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind, right? So that's how I run Menza. Ki matlab, it is to the end, right? The day which we have not a single paisa left, उस दिन विल थिंक अबाउट कि अरे इसको बंद कर देते हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं, तब तक destroy as much as you want to destroy. I have no problem, right? So don't have that sense in my mind कि मतलब पैसा होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए. My mom used to say कि मतलब नालायक हैं तो तुम उनके लिए कमा के छोड़ दोगे तो क्या कर लेंगे, वो बेकार कर देंगे, और लायक हैं तो उनके लिए क्यों कमा रहे हो, क्योंकि वो खुद ही कमा लेंगे, right? So that's my sense around my family, my daughter and all also कि मतलब I have to leave nothing behind for anybody, right? Matlab, I can destroy my whole wealth and I'd be happy. If I feel happy about it, go, take it. Let's go in the destruction path, right? So वो सब बातें नहीं करता है somehow. मतलब maybe I'm talking from a sense of comfort right now, but I don't get bothered about those things at all. Personal financial stability doesn't bother me. Other people's do bother me, right? And I would never refuse money to anybody. Even if a stranger asks me on the road, मेरे को 25,000 चाहिए, I don't think I'll bat an eyelid before transferring that 25,000. Like, complete stranger. And that, like, so many situations. And people say that they take advantage of me. I say, please take advantage of me. It's okay. I say, somebody messaged me that my daddy is getting into hospital. मेरे को 25,000 चाहिए. Shut it, Ghose. I don't even ask कि तुम कौन हो यार, मतलब later he will tell me अरे मैं आपके यहाँ एक बार कार सर्विस करने के लिए आया था तो आपकी गाड़ी लेके गया था. ठीक है, अच्छा किया था, लेके गए थे. So that disrespect for money is there. I'm seriously not bothered about it at all. It doesn't turn my mind even one iota any day. Sound idealistic, but ऐसा ही है. It is like that, unfortunately.
So very interesting. I think, and Atul, even when we compare this with a lot of other people we have spoken to, just the financial thing is such a wide spectrum, right?
It's very interesting. I mean, I'm really enjoying listening to both Neeraja and Anurag, because I've got a Venn diagram in my head that there is so much overlapping between the way they are thinking, the action bit and shooting and aiming and all. But there is so much outside that, where they're independently thinking in different ways, and just shows you that there's no one answer. There are multiple answers to the questions that we are asking. Let's talk passion, purpose. Suman?
Yeah, I think we have spoken quite a bit, but there's so much talk about finding your passion, do what is meaningful, all of that. What do you have to say to that? So maybe let me come to you, Neeraja. You have, what you yourself said, you really evolved from the time you came out of a corporate job. You had to unlearn a lot of things and learn. So it's almost a new perspective that you've got. one of the passion things you mentioned about is helping other women. That came out very strongly, right? Even if it's one woman that you're helping, would you call that your purpose? Have you given it a thought as to what is your purpose, what is your passion, and when was it clear to you as to what your passion was?
So I think even in my corporate days, I was always running these diversity and inclusion initiatives. That was always there. While I was a technology leader, I would always put my hand and kind of have a stretch goal for myself in that space. I think what probably triggered it was that for me, because they made me this team lead without really thinking about whether she will be able to or not, and I realized I have to change myself, which transformed me to who I am. Now, if I had not gotten that opportunity, I would have probably continued, that quiet girl sitting in one corner doing her programs. Every time technology changes, I learn a new programming language and keep doing something, right? I would never have changed to who I am today. So I strongly believe that not everybody gets such triggers and such opportunities. And I want every woman to kind of grab and create these opportunities. So that was always there. That is why I used to run those diversity inclusion initiatives even in my corporate days. And then I realized before I had even quit, I was part of a lot of mentoring platforms, because where do you find these women to help them, to mentor coach them? So I was a mentor on Sheroes, on Jobs for Her, and any platform where women could approach me. So that's how it started. So I think that passion and purpose, if I couldn't possibly call it that, but to help women, because there's a lot of potential, and they themselves probably don't understand, evaluate, and I want them to figure that out. It was always there. But if you look at it now, for me, I've realized that even with one conversation like this conversation, there will be so many who will have some transformation in their mindsets with this conversation. So for my purpose is that I would like to bring about a positive mindset shift with every interaction that I have with women, with students. Not that, I don't have a thing with men, but largely I find, women and students to be that segment which I feel needs to have this mindset shift. So I will do whatever comes my way to enable that. Okay. That's how I would call my passion purpose. And it started with one. It has gone to many, many. I have not kept account of how many, but I will keep doing that in whichever way I can. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, I think in a way it goes back to what you said right at the beginning. It's about prioritization, right? Even within two things you said, if somebody's saying both are important, that means they don't have the clarity in terms of what is really more important to them.
Yes.
And so maybe at that time we were not thinking in terms of passion or purpose, but that clarity of thought as to what is important to you is probably what's driving the purpose.
Exactly.
Right?
Priorities
awesome.
are very, very, very important. And they change.
Yeah.
They change. I'm not saying the same. And it's okay for it to change, because life changes. But at every phase in your life, can you look at what your current priorities are and then go after it?
That's an important point you make about priorities changing, because that we all have this sense of not giving that the due.
That's
mm-hmm. Anurag, let me come to you. So what would you have to say about passion or purpose? Like, you've done multiple things, right? Right now, if I ask
exactly you, right. With everything everywhere, you cannot have a passion, right? Because तो कहीं भी घूम सकते हैं, right?
Is there a thread? For instance, today, from the looks of it, you might kind of jump into something completely different, right? But is there a common thread running across all these things that you're doing?
Even if it's something that you see looking backwards, it may not be that was your intent when you started, but can you see a thread looking back?
So I'm not sure if I have a passion for anything, because I do many things, right? From Formula 1 to cricket, सब कुछ चलता है my life में, right? So, but I care for things, right? Like, I really care for people being happy and successful. I think it's people's right to be happy and successful, right? And I don't think we realize how lucky some of us are that we are successful, not because we are capable. But I think we are way overrated on our capability. We so underestimate the fact that we are just simple lucky.
I just want to add on this purpose, in many of my sessions, and I do a lot of, programs for women, right? So I always start, the first module is always about purpose, because I believe that most times, even we haven't had very intentional careers. We just get in college, mein placement ho jata hai, and then you get into the job, and the companies always will have this competency list for you to go from this grade to that grade. You have to up on these competencies, and then you keep going, right? So many times our own ambition is not clear to us, and hence we are where we are. So I start, the session with the programs with purpose, and I always talk about Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Right. And in one of the podcasts, the host was saying, yeah. I mean, I have to figure out how many downloads I had today of this particular podcast, and that keeps me going. And Simon Sinek says, that's not your purpose, right? Tomorrow, if the podcast was not there, would your purpose have gone away? You will still figure out reaching your purpose in some other manner. So I think people get confused with what I do today is my purpose. No, that is only an enabler to that more, underlying purpose. So for me, my purpose is to bring that mindset shift. And if being on this particular show can do that, I will do it. If writing will do it, I will do it. If speaking will do it, if coaching will do it, if something else tomorrow. So that underlying purpose has to be figured out. The way means to kind of reach there are many.
Yeah. No, purpose is very interesting. And I think, again, I go back to the prioritization. What is important to you is like a purpose. So, when I was listening to Anurag, for instance, I think helping other people and seeing them successful is like a purpose. And that becomes a common thread, right? Which is essentially what he's doing now. Whether he does it tomorrow through Mensa or something else, the purpose is still the same, right? And I think, Neeraja, what you talked about is also similar. Okay, great.
And with Anurag, I'm seeing, sorry, Suman, with Anurag, passion seems to be a passion. He's so passionately going after, everything, everywhere, all at once. Is that seems to be a very big driver of passion. And while it's, almost half joking, but that's a very interesting way to, that approach is a great purpose and passion. And like you said, it might work for some, it might not work for some. And you have to have the ability to face the consequences of jumping into the sea as well. That if you can do that,
I have a superpower, right? My superpower is time, right? I'm never short of it. So when Suman called me कि परसों करना है, my answer is always yes. मतलब I've never had a situation somebody call it 10 minute है क्या 10 नहीं आधा घंटा है तुम बोलो यार क्या काम है right? कभी भी right? But somehow time create होता रहता है right? मतलब you'll never see me say कि अरे time नहीं. Impossible. You call me anytime and say अरे आज 1 घंटा बात करनी आ जाओ यार मतलब कभी भी कर सकते हैं. So that has been big help कि मतलब हर चीज के लिए time मिल जाता है despite the fact that you want to do so many things. Never been short on time ever. Never.
I think that's there's so much so much insightful things that you're saying, but it's so much wrapped in this humility thing. I'm having it difficult to process it. Actually,
it is true.
This is called reverse snobbery. I learned it from a brain consultant long time back. It's called reverse snobbery is better than snobbery, so I started practicing it.
Right.
Good one. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of the show. So maybe some quick rapid fire things. So if you had to redo the whole, journey all over again, what would you do differently and what would you not do differently? Let me start with you, Neeraja.
I think largely I would have done the same things. One is I would have valued myself more than what I did at any point in time. I remember when I kind of decided to start training, and I felt nobody is going to come to me. Why will they? There are so many trainers out there. So I actually collaborated with someone. And that person said, nobody knows Neeraja, so let's do some free webinars. This is pre-COVID, right? They will get to know who Neeraja is, what she does. You do on your networking, you do one talk. And it was promoted on his, platform. And I put it on my social media. 96 people registered for the webinar. 96 women registered. And I said, why women? Because on the poster, we didn't say this was only for women. And his platform has a mixed group. He doesn't do programs for only women. And all 96 people were my followers, from the Jobs for Her days. So that means I always had this, place, position, whatever brand, whatever you call that, but I undervalued myself. So I would have definitely, I think all of us need to value ourselves. We are there, but I think I undervalued myself, and hence the learning of how do I price my offerings, etc., has been a journey. I may do that differently, but otherwise, I think I would do the same.
Okay, that was very interesting. So value yourself more. Anurag, what would you do differently? Would you still climb the mountain and jump into the sea, or what else would
Oh,
you
that
do?
I can't help. That is my genetic problem. It's nothing to do with my wanting, right? But yeah, I was also a good student, and so I regret that I did not study what I wanted to study, right? Because I had to get to this, cut to cut to cut kind of a thing. So it's not lost time. I'll probably go back to college sometime, right? Matlab, another 5 years, 7 years, maybe 10 years. I'll go back to. I'm actually already working with some universities trying to set up some design labs, and also वहाँ मेरी भी पढ़ाई हो जाएगी. But I would have loved to have studied a little bit more. Because I love reading, love studying, love researching, but never enjoyed it, right? Because it's so targeted to a job.
Yeah.
It was more like a completion exercise rather than an engagement exercise, right? So hopefully can go back to college and do some more studying like a student, not like a job seeker in every class, right? I would have sold Final Mile earlier. I think we dragged it too long. But apart from that, नहीं यार मतलब एक आध छोटे मोटे रिग्रेट्स मैं उसको ठीक नहीं कर सकता. There's this lady at a pizza store here एक बारी, and I can't forget that. It's so trying to buy a pizza for her daughter, and she didn't have. I think she was short by 10 or 15 rupees, right? And this pizza guy won't give it to her, right? And I was standing there, and I did not know what to destroy, right? Should I destroy her self-image by saying मैं दे देता हूँ या मैं चुप रहूँ? And I kept quiet, right? And she had to go back, right, without taking that picture. So that was very regretful. Yeah.
Yeah, there are moments like that, and I think especially for a person like Anurag, who was talking to us so passionately about helping people, and to have that one moment, it must have been really hard. As we can see, it obviously was. It is these incidents or actions or moments or thoughts which are jarring with our fundamental purpose and passion are the turns that you remember more than the ones that didn't really matter. That, I should have, I don't know, bought that book or bought that phone or not bought that. Who really cares? Life moves on. But such a, where it goes really against the grain of who we are as human beings, whatever we are, is the ones you really remember and get affect you specifically and emotionally.
We talk of purpose and passion. Passion is more emotion, right? So one thing that's emerging clearly to me is that whatever we do, we need to have that emotion, right?
Yeah.
We need to, the reason why it affected you is you deeply care.
Correct.
And I think that's absolutely essential when you are trying to do something different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I thought that was
and
really...
that's what very often is the real driver, because as we all know, we've all had our own personal journeys, that is what actually fuels you to be able to get up when you're in a down and say, that I need to do this, I want to do this, I will do this because I believe in it so much. It comes from that space.
This was wonderful. I think there's a lot of learnings for people, just getting different stories, perspectives. Before we end, any last advice you would give to someone who's maybe, thinking of doing something different? Neeraja?
Yeah, I think find your passion early. I think it's important. And start working on it along with your mainstream career. If that is, I always say Sneha, my daughter, all of 22, she's a data analyst, right? But she is also passionate about giving talks and helping these freshers to figure out their interviews, better their resumes, LinkedIn, etc. And she does it as a side gig. Okay, it's not really going to get her too much of money or anything. But for all you know, that will evolve into something else over a period of time. So you don't need to wait for 25 years like I did or somebody else did. If you figured it out early, let it go in parallel, as I would say. I will never, not want to say about networking. Please network. It is very, very important. If for whatever you want to do in life, networks are very important. Building a brand is very, very important. You cannot dig a well when you're thirsty. It has to be already there. For me, that helped because I had a large network. So when I really decided to speak to people, they knew me. I was not trying to find people and then say, okay, help me, or I need some help, and act. Just act on whatever you feel like today and get going.
Super. Thanks, Neeraja. Anurag, any last advice from your side?
What can I say? It sounds rich coming from me, but don't do different things because you have to do different things. There is no need to do different things. ये कोई मतलब these are all overrated things, right? तुम्हें mind की different करना चाहिए. Do whatever you want to do, right? मतलब need not be different, right? I mean, this idea of 0 to 1, कि we have to transform and be innovative and change the world. जरूरी नहीं है. मतलब you can also make the world the way it is a little better, right? Without changing it dramatically. But जब करने की कोशिश करो ना, then don't look back. मतलब पहाड़ पे चढ़ना है ना तो ऊपर तक चढ़ के आओ यार. मतलब डोंट कम बैक हाफ वे कि यार मतलब ऊपर जाके देखा कुछ भी नहीं है, पता नहीं क्यों आए थे. बट स्टिल वर्थ इट. फ्रेंड के ऊपर आना था तो आके गए फिर नीचे, राइट? सो इफ यू वांट डू समथिंग, डू इट फुली. भले ही उसका एंड कुछ भी ना हो, राइट? यू माइट फाइंड नथिंग ऑन द टॉप, राइट? बट इट्स ओके. वापस आ जाना.
Super. That was awesome. Atul, anything else before we close?
Not specifically, Suman. I just obviously like to thank Neeraja and Anurag. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been lovely. Thank you so much for sharing with your hearts wide open, not just your minds. Because in this journey, the heart is as important, if not more important than the mind. And we really appreciate your having done that. Thank you.